The Women's March civil war continues. Not that long ago, we heard that Alyssa Milano said she was disavowing certain people like Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory because they were essentially advocating for Louis Farrakhan. They're going to his events. They were praising him, and she said she will not. Alyssa Milano said she will not speak at these events until they call out the anti-Semitism. We now have this story. Women's March founder calls on Linda Sarsour, other activists to resign over anti-Semitism, anti-gay beliefs. It is an escalation, and it is about damn time. This is not, look, I believe people who advocate for civil rights are doing the right thing. And I believe that sometimes not all calls for civil rights are legitimate. It's interesting to me that a lot of people say, oh, it's about progress. Think about, when X group wasn't allowed to speak and now they are. Sure. But there are a lot of groups that weren't allowed to speak 20 years ago and still aren't because their ideas are bad. I'm not going to specifically name, I don't want to call it any specific group, any group specifically because it might veer off into dangerous territory where YouTube will strike me down. But let's just say there are a lot of people over the years that have advocated for new civil rights for groups that should not, absolutely do not deserve them. And I'm talking about, adults who like not adults, for instance, because they constantly try and advocate for these things. That is a good example of how not every activist is a good person. With the Women's March, they have done things that I think they're good. It's great. I mean, outside of the Women's March, Me Too, for instance, a lot of the same overlap. That's great too. However, you have to rein things in when they get bad. Let's take a look at what's going on, because for the longest time, people have criticized Linda Sarsour and others involved for being anti-Semites, for being anti-LGBTQIA, and no one's done anything about it. It's about time this is happening. The Women's March founder is urging the group's leadership to resign over anti-Semitism and anti-gay rhetoric just days after Linda Sarsour suggested Jewish people have dual loyalties. Seriously. Teresa Shook, a retired lawyer who was behind the nationwide Women's March following the election of Donald Trump, published a statement on Monday urging the current leaders of the movement to step aside. In opposition to our unity principles, they have allowed anti-Semitism, anti-LGBTQIA sentiment, and hateful racist rhetoric to become part of the platform by their refusal to separate themselves from the groups that espouse these racist, hateful beliefs, she wrote on Facebook. And this, she said that Bob Bland, Tamika Mallory, Linda Sarsour, and Carmen Perez of Women's March have steered the movement away from its true course. I have waited, hoping they would right the ship, but they have not. In opposition to our unity principles, and that's the part that I read, I stand in solidarity with all the sister march organizations to bring the movement back to its authentic purpose. As a Women's March founder, I am stepping up to bring focus back to unity principles on which our movement began, and with support of all of those who marched and have continued to march, I pledge to support grassroots, decentralized leadership promoting a safe, worldwide community devoid of hate speech, bigotry, and racism. She singled out the group's board members, Bob Bland, Tamika Mallory, Sarsour, and Carmen Perez. Under the leadership, I think I read that. Okay, under the leadership, the Women's March was constantly under fire for anti-Semitic groups and comments that some deemed anti-Semitic. Just last week, Sarsour was condemned for saying the criticism against Minnesota Congresswoman-elect Ilhan Omar over her support for boycott of Israel is led by folks who masquerade as progressives but always choose their allegiance to Israel over their commitment to democracy and free speech. Omar recently came out in support of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement against Israel, despite previously saying she doesn't support it. She was also criticized for tweeting that Israel has hypnotized the world. The criticism of Omar, is that when she was campaigning, she was like, oh, no, I don't support boycotting Israel. No, I think there's a legitimate place for them. And then as soon as she got elected, went, yup, boycott them. Thus kind of deceiving people into supporting her when she actually believed things contrary to what she stated. The American Jewish Committee, one of the oldest Jewish advocacy groups in America, accused Sarsour of anti-Semitism. Accusing Jews of dual loyalty is one of the oldest and most pernicious anti-Semitic tropes. No surprise to see it coming from Linda Sarsour. How long will progressive leaders continue to look the other way in the face of this hate? The organization tweeted on Friday. And let's not forget, when the media ran story after story that the word globalist was a secret term used by anti-Semites to accuse Jews of supporting not their home countries. The idea was, look, globalist simply means somebody who believes that there should be internationalism, that the world should be a one-world government and things of that nature. They claimed in various, like Now This News, part of this big thing with the Anti-Defamation League, that globalist was a secret dog whistle to those who believed there was a cabal of Jewish people with no allegiance to their home countries. They claimed that was the basis for this term being anti-Semitic. If you were a globalist, you didn't believe in your home country, you believed in internationalism, and that it was somehow a dog whistle pointing out the Jews. Right now, you have Linda Sarsour of the Women's March being criticized for accusing Jews of dual loyalty. Sounds familiar. I'm looking forward to Now This News and the Anti-Defamation League calling them out for literally repeating basically the same thing that the ADL said was secret anti-Semitism. You now have Linda Sarsour. Here's what she posted. She said, we need you. Add your name and please post a message on all social media in support of Congresswoman-elect Ilhan Omar. She's being attacked for saying that she supports BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions, and the right for people to engage in constitutionally protected freedoms. This is not only coming from the right wing, but folks who masquerade as progressives but always choose their allegiance to Israel. Oh my God! Over their commitment to democracy and free speech. I cannot believe. No, I'm sorry. I was going to say I couldn't believe she'd say this, but I literally can believe it. These people are anti-Semites. And I've talked about this time and time again. And I always say, like, listen, yes, the ultra-nationalists, the far right, they have anti-Semites. They're rare, but the far left has them as well. The problem is mainstream right-wing people, for the most part, have no problem calling out anti-Semitism. Linda Sarsour is a leader of the Women's March. It took this long to finally get people to say she is an anti-Semite. And she is. Are you kidding me? Folks who masquerade as progressives but always choose their allegiance to Israel over their commitment to democracy and free speech. She says, you don't have to support BDS at every right. She says, you don't have to support BDS and have every right not to, but we cannot stand by idly while a brave black Muslim American woman is targeted for saying she will uphold the Constitution of the United States of America as a member of U.S. Congress. She is the kind of unapologetic leader we have been waiting for. I stand with Ilhan, and so should you. AJC Global tweeted, accusing Jews of dual loyalty is one of the oldest, most pernicious anti-Semitic tropes. No surprise to see it coming from Linda Sarsour. How long will progressive leaders continue to look the other way in the face of this hate? And when I talk to people on the left and say, dude, you've got to call it the anti-Semitism, they go, no. There's a difference between being anti-Zionist and criticizing Israel and being anti-Semitic. And I talked to one of my friends and I said, is there? Right, look, there is. But you have to understand that there are college organizations that are holding it personally against people who are Jewish as to what Israel does. A friend of mine told me that, this is a progressive friend of mine, was saying, no, I don't think it's that, I don't think it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. And after the conversation, she said one of her friends wasn't allowed to start a program on college because the student body, union body or whatever, said we don't want a Jewish group that would support Israel. And when they said it's not about Israel, it's about being Jewish, they said they didn't care. Essentially, I only know vague details, but I was told specifically that yes, people who are Jewish are discriminated against because of the actions of Israel, even though they are technically separate. The point is, Linda Sarsour is, I feel like when they go after Israel this way, it's a veiled way of being anti-Semitic, straight up. I understand Israel has a lot to be criticized for, of course, I'm not blind, but I do think it's safe to say when they associate themselves with Farrakhan and then say things like this, yeah, we know what you really mean. We do. You're saying it overtly. And it's mind-blowing to me that you have people who straight up groups who are like, yeah, we don't believe in racism, get accused by the left, like, nope, you're secretly racist, we know you're lying. And then you have Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory was in attendance at a Farrakhan event, I don't know how many. They praise Farrakhan, they deflect Farrakhan. They have denounced him, sort of, but for the most part, they're like, oh, no, it's not about Farrakhan. Farrakhan's still on Twitter. Why can you have someone overtly saying these things be defended time and time again and then pretend they are not the racists? Again, I say it a million times. What bothers me about the left so much is that they hide behind anti-racism. They claim to be fighting against authoritarianism when they embrace it wholeheartedly in their top ranks. This is a woman who goes up on stage in front of tens of thousands of people, in front of millions around the world, and they praise her. And they praise her even when you know what she really believes. It just annoys the hell out of me. The progressive group's continued alliance with the Nation of Islam and its leader Louis Farrakhan also drew scrutiny. Mallory was accused of contributing to anti-Semitism after she was seen attending an event where Farrakhan said, I'm not even going to read this quote. This is insane. The Women's March as a group defended Mallory, and she herself said, I go into difficult spaces on social media. The activist said Farrakhan is the GOAT, meaning the greatest of all time. What do you think they mean when they call Farrakhan the greatest of all time, when Farrakhan says things that are so abhorrent? I refuse to even read their quotes. It is mind-blowing. It is absolutely mind-blowing to me. We'll wrap this one up. I think, I'm starting to beat a dead horse. At times, the current leaders of the group fired back against the founder of the movement, saying, her attack was done irresponsibly, but admitted the wrongdoing. We are imperfect. We don't know everything, and we have caused harm, the leaders of the group wrote on Facebook. At times, we have responded with hurt, but we are committed to learning. We will continue to work through the good and the bad, the impact and the harm of building an intersectional movement that our daughters and our daughters' daughters can be proud of, they added. Yet at the same time, they still support Farrakhan, they're still anti-Semitic, and now they're saying, yeah, okay, we're sorry, we'll do better. No, it just means, you think any of this changed their opinions? Absolutely not. Anti-Semites full, always will be. You're not going to change your opinion overnight because someone criticized you. That's just not how it works. And they love this guy. Straight up. And that's why, it bothers me when I see people saying, well, you got to support the Women's March, you got to support all these movements. No, get out of here. Not as long as they harbor anti-Semites and refuse to back down. Anyway, stick around. I got one more video coming up in just a few minutes.